everybody. What is going on? Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Galaxy of Geeks.
We're going to keep the crowd going.
Keep the crowd going. Yes.
Crowd battle.
Hey, what is happening, all nerds, geeks, and fans of everything that is out there as far as nerdom goes, and Star Wars and Marvel and DC and all the superhero stuff? How's everyone doing? Just want to see how everyone's doing. Welcome to another episode of Galaxy Geeks. We are here and we are ready to talk about Loki, The Bad Batch, Rick and Morty, and anything else that you want to throw at us in the comments or chat or whatever as we're going along. Because as you know, we do go live every single Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to talk about the latest happenings. And as I said, we have been recently, the shows we've been following have been Bad Batch, Rick and Morty, and Loki. And when Loki's up, there's going to be some more stuff, because Loki, episode 5 was this week, so we only have one more episode of Loki left. We're more than halfway through the season of Bad Batch. Yep. And Rick and Morty, I guess we're halfway through Rick and Morty already, right? Because is Rick and Morty only going to be like
it's 5 episodes, I think.
I think it's 5 episodes.
6,
yeah, 5 or 6.
And we're up to that was episode what, 3, 4?
Yeah, I think something like that. I think it was 3. I think it's 3. A Rick Convenient Morty, a Rick Convenient Mort.
They did, however, release the What If trailer today.
Oh, okay. I missed that. I haven't seen that yet. So, all right. So I guess maybe that's going to be next. Yeah, next in line. August. So once that starts, we'll of course be following that as well. So, yes. And of course, we like to tell everybody who is watching live, and of course, we want to thank everybody who's watching live. We want to thank people who watch the replay of this, and of course, all of you out there who listen to the audio version of this podcast. We very much appreciate you from the bottom of our hearts. And we especially appreciate it when you hit that subscribe button, when you punch that subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening to this, because it keeps you notified every time we drop a new episode of the show, which has been weekly. Whether you're watching our videos or you're listening to the audio version, you'll get those weekly updates every single time we launch a new episode. And of course, if you could help us pay a little bills around here, show your support for the show and go to buymeacoffee.com/GalaxyGeeks, which you can access in the show notes of this episode. Whether you're listening or watching this, there is a link there to our show notes. And hey, feel free to buy us a coffee. You know, $2 goes a long way. We could buy a lot of coffee. We could pay some bills around here. It really helps. You know, we also have if you go to galaxygeeks.net, we've got all kinds of great stuff there, such as all the past episodes of the show, all there, nicely cataloged. You can access the video version. You can listen to the audio versions right then and there if you don't want to subscribe to any platforms. Plus, you also get access to all our social accounts and our handy-dandy merch store. So that way you can show your true geek support by wearing some Galaxy Geeks fancy swag there. So, did I leave anything out?
I think you covered all the bases. I've been a big proponent of talking about independently hosting podcasts these last few weeks, and we independently host right there on galaxyofgeeks.net. So if you hear something, if you hear us promote something, it's because we want it there. We're not on, I won't mention any names, but you aren't going to hear commercials for other things that we don't believe in. You're not going to hear, things that we don't get behind. So we're true believers in controlling our destiny.
Yes, absolutely. And that being said, if you would love to sponsor our show, we'd be more than happy to have you as a sponsor. So get in touch with Victor, because he vets all the sponsors.
There you go.
But yeah, so let's dive into it. What do you want to start with, man? You want to go Bad Batch? You want to go Loki?
Well, you mentioned Rick and Morty, and I
All
pulled the
right.
information up, so let's talk about that real quick.
All right, great. Well, starting with Rick and Morty episode 3. Am I right about that?
Yes.
A Rick
It is
convenient
episode 3.
Mort.
Yes. We have 2 episodes left after this, so there's 5. The next episode will be called Rick Dependent Spray, and the last one will be called A Mordican Graffiti.
Okay. A Morton. Wait. Say a Morditon.
A Mordican.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. It's
supposed to be American Graffiti, but
yeah, but it's with Morty and Rick's name mixed in. So it's Morty's name mixed into the first, and Rick's in the second. Rick Fitty, or I don't know how you would pronounce this.
That's hilarious.
I'll pass it through the chat.
Yeah. A Mordican Graffiti. Grick-fitty.
There you go.
I'm going to go with Grick-fitty, although I may not be right. But yeah, a Mordican Grick-fitty.
There you go.
That's pretty funny,
though. What an episode. Crazy. Just absolutely crazy. You know, I thought that multiplicity was just out there and wild.
Oh my God.
But it was funny because multiplicity was just like pure violence over and over again.
Yeah.
And my kids have been bugging us to watch Rick and Morty, you know, and they've seen an episode here or there. Like after I've watched it and I'm like, okay, they can handle this one. We'll watch it. And, you know, they were getting rambunctious. I'm like, all right, we're going to watch Rick and Morty. You guys want to watch Rick and Morty with us? Yeah, sure. And I'm like, oh man, we didn't vet this episode. So there were certain sexual overtones that were taking place, and me and my wife were looking at us. And my oldest son, I'm looking at him like from the side, like kind of like looking puzzled, like, what's going on, Dad? What, you know, what's? So I'm like, oh man, I'm a bad parent, aren't I? For having my 10-year-old, just 10 years old as of this past weekend, watch something that is definitely R-rated. But
I mean, you know you're rolling the dice. You know you're rolling the dice with Rick and Morty, though. Like it's like it really is, but it's usually more on the other side that it's really not appropriate for children,
right,
of a certain age.
and it's funny because I've mentioned this to you before. I often think about, okay, at that age, what movies had I seen? You know, I had an older brother, so there were our movies. We'd, you know, seen Police Academy, and we had seen, you know, stuff like Bachelor Party and stuff like that, or like Cheech and Chong movies. You know, I saw all that stuff before I was a teenager. So it was one of these things where I got in on the joke and I understood, even though it was like kind of like adult humor. I may not have grasped everything, but you know, it wasn't one of these things where, oh my God, I've all of a sudden, you know, just lost control and I become a deviant automatically. So
you're a complete deviant.
Yeah, I think that at least my kids, what we talked to them about, I think although they didn't understand everything, at least they're, you know, it's not one of these things where, again, they're not going to go off and it's not going to harm them for life. Let me put it to you.
Yeah, it won't harm them for life. It's just it's gonna make it uncomfortable for you more so as the adult in the room that you're like, oh my God, like
yeah, especially the end credit. Mom isn't talking to us, is she? Nope. I guess we only did that because it was the end of the world, right? Yep. So it was, you know, one of those things where, oh man, this is this is out there. So
yeah, I actually, in all honesty, I have to rewatch the episode because I was watching it late, like really late. And I felt like it was like, it started off and I was like, oh my God, this is like so good. And then I just sort of like drifted away and I was like, wait a second, it's over. And I'm like, oh my God, I fell asleep. So I have to rewatch the whole thing because I did not like, I was in and out, and it feels like a vague dream that
Right.
I had. So I've got to go back and rewatch it because I was trying to watch everything before today
Right.
because I had to actually rewatch Loki again before because the same thing happened. I started watching it and I was drifting in and out, and I'm like, did I watch the whole thing? And I was like, oh no. So I got to definitely rewatch the Rick and Morty thing because I know I missed a bunch of stuff. But you know what? Since I'm going to be traveling tomorrow, I'm going to see if I can actually just get it on my phone so I can watch it on the plane.
Yeah, there's this is, and this was happened with Mortiplicity as well, where there's just continuous action. There's just stuff going on continuously. It's not like other episodes where you have like things setting up what's about to happen, or there's like, you know, an explanation as to how the battery works or how, you know, different things happen. This was, you know, 3 planets were about to explode and we're going to go party on them with people that know that they're going to die. So it's going to be a whole lot of debauchery. And it was great. It's great how it was laid out, and it was funny and entertaining. And, you know, the whole Captain Planet thing where I had to explain that to my wife. With
Captain, which I thought that was a great. I mean, I love every week they pull so much stuff in that they just, you know, like that they're fans of, and then they Rick and mortify it.
Right, absolutely.
And I saw the Captain Planet. I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be so great. Even when I watched the trailer last week, I was like, this is gonna be awesome. Like they are gonna completely defile what Captain Planet was all about. So I'm
Planetina.
Yeah.
Planetina, who has like a I don't know if you saw this part, but she had like a phoenix turn.
You know, I did see a little bit of that, which is why I was like, I got to go back and rewatch this because I'm like, wait a second, they were definitely pulling in things from other storylines and all, which they always do. They always do that, which is what makes that show so funny to me. You know, as a comic book fan, like, and these guys are just fans of all the same stuff that we are. So it's always cool when they slip things in and create like little storylines or callbacks to like stuff in their own way. I always love how they take it and they sort of like flip it around somehow,
like Nimbus.
Nimbus.
Yeah, the other day we were watching something explaining what you know, rumors for Black Panther and stuff with Namor. And I said, hey, look, it's Nimbus. So
Mr. Nimbus.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing though, as you're mentioning this, see, this is the great thing about Justin Roiland and all the stuff that he does, is that he is a fan and he knows when to incorporate his humor and he knows when to work with a vehicle or people that are with him. Like if you really think about what Solo was going to be with Lloyd and Miller, where it's just going to be like a complete comedy. It wasn't what Disney wanted.
Right.
But yet Roiland has people that are now going on. They've done Loki. They're going to be doing, you know, the main scriptwriter in Doctor Strange, the same guy that's doing Loki. Right. One of the other producers of the show is writing Ant-Man. So this is something that Christian and me talked about. Who's been better at talking about multi-dimensional stuff and time travel?
So true.
Than Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
So at least at least they're cognizant, or at least that universe, you know, at least they're cognizant to say, hey, we're fans of this stuff. This is our vehicle. This is where we can do this. You know, it's them understanding that, okay, within this band, this is my role and I can do this. But when I'm doing this other project, I can just solo and do whatever the hell I want.
Right.
So it's knowing when to pull it back, and the storytelling is still great. That's what amazes me, where there's so many people, so many writers, so many directors, so many different people behind things, where their ego or them stepping on their own cape gets in their way, as opposed to just, you know, looking at, for example, the Russo brothers and saying, you know what?
Yeah.
They put their stamp on things while still driving the property correctly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, exactly. I agree with you 100%. Because it's even like, going off and doing things like Solar Opposites,
right,
that he's done, which I is a great show too. If you haven't watched that yet, it's on Hulu. Solar Opposites. If you like Rick and Morty, I mean, it's not the same as Rick and Morty, but it
right,
definitely has overtones and similar styles, things like that. It's actually more like a cross between like I always feel like American Dad and Rick and Morty a little bit. It's
okay,
kind of got that feel to it. But anyway,
right.
but yeah, to your point, like it's you're bringing the right people to do things that get it, and then that's when you get really good. You get good films or good shows,
Right.
because it's people who get it and they want to create great stories that people are into, instead
And
of
they
just trying to
care.
like mail it in or
Yeah.
sell to a test market or I don't know, whatever it is. It's just like, yeah, because they care. And
Mhm.
listen, there's a certain amount of you want to pander to the fans, but you don't want to just be blatantly pandering to them. I mean, just do what you
Right.
do. I mean, that's as fans, that's what we love. We just do what you do best, and we'll stick with you. You want to take some risks? Hey, great, that's fine. We'll check it
Mhm.
out. Like, it's just when you start like coming off as like, oh my God, like that's terrible. That's cheesy. A character, it's so
Yeah.
out of line with the character. It's so out of line with the universe.
Yep.
That's when people get upset, and that's
Yep.
then, or you just try to inherently change something so far removed from the source material, which we've talked
Mhm.
about a billion times over on this show, is like, to me, it's the kiss of death. Like, it doesn't mean you can't do something new creatively and be
Right.
inspired or spin off. Like, that's not, but it's like when you take something extremely beloved and has such a large built-in fan base, whatever that is, and you try to go, we're gonna freshen this up and make it new, and it's like there's not making
No,
it new,
that
just make
doesn't
it
work.
good. Like, just make it
Yeah.
good. Focus on that. So anyway, you and I could go on and on about
Yeah.
this, and it carries over into everything else. But
Yeah.
regardless, hey, this Rick and Morty episode, definitely for me, I've got to rewatch it because I know I didn't get all the way to the end, and I was just like tired and in and out. But from what I saw, it was great so far this season. I mean, every season they seem to just get better and better and amp it up, and I
Right.
love that they're even like getting to the point of like, I mean, even more so now, like making fun of themselves as a show and
Right.
rehashing ideas and like literally breaking the fourth wall a ton of times, and just really being self-aware. And I find
Yeah.
that humor so good. Like, and they do it really well, that whole self-aware kind of thing, and turning
Yep.
it into like actual storyline stuff is great. So but yeah, those are my thoughts on the show, and obviously you've been really enjoying it as well this season.
Absolutely. Yep.
Very good. All right, so let's go into the show I want to talk about next, if you don't mind. Is I'd like to talk about Loki. I'd like to talk about
Okay.
episode 5 of Loki. um Journey into Mystery was the title of this episode. So we're literally one episode left of Loki to wrap this up, see where we're going to go. So I'm going to give you my overall thoughts on this episode.
Okay.
And I don't want it to come off poorly, but I just want to say that I felt like that this really felt like an episode 5. If there was like an 8 episode season or
Okay.
a 10 episode season, I thought that this episode there was some really funny stuff, obviously,
Mhm.
with the Lokis and all that. Um, Ultimately, I felt a little ho hum about this episode. It was like,
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, the end was great. I mean, some cool stuff happened and it moved the story forward. So, and once again, I don't want to sound like I hated this episode. I didn't hate it at all. It's
Mhm.
just I feel like every week we've been so like so much is going on and happening, and this one just felt a little bit like we're gonna really slow it down a bit,
Okay.
and then obviously it's like kind of throttled it right back up at the very end to lead us into like what will be like the Marvel finale.
Okay. I think I gained a greater appreciation after watching 2 like Easter egg videos that I usually watch. It's one
Okay.
that's in Spanish and the other one is Screen Crush in English.
Oh,
Um,
right. Screen Crush is good. I have not watched any of the Easter egg
yeah.
videos yet.
Yeah, I like Screen Crush because it kind of just gives you the facts as
Right.
opposed to throwing opinion in there. I mean, he throws in your mom jokes, which is kind of humorous.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, those are always funny.
but I mean, there are others where, oh, well, this is obviously, pointing towards this. No, it's, for example, the Thanos helicopter showed up, and he brought up, well, Thanos first appeared in Spider-Man flying a yellow Thanos helicopter. He brought up something that I paused right in the middle, the Avengers Tower, where it had some initials and I didn't understand it. But after watching these videos, I understood what it was. I'm look at what Christian is saying. Quite the opposite.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I think that this episode did a lot of underlying things that after you analyze the episode, you realize, there's a lot of cool stuff that was done to really tie things together. And it's funny, I never thought of this, but the Loki we've seen on screen, for whatever reason, really hasn't come close to his abilities in the comics. If you really think about what...
Well, I liked, there was the one line she says that Sylvie says, because she's got to, what she's going to do with the enchant, the smoke monster, which I forgot the name of it was. And he's like, well, I can't do it. And she goes, you haven't even, tapped into and he even said this thing too with old Loki, and he made the whole
Asgard appear. Right. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to bring up. So I think that Loki will now realize that he has old Loki's powers. He's got a little bit of each one of the other Lokis that he's seen in him. So, I think, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how this final episode plays out because he's a variant. But does that mean that now he comes back to the timeline, the quote unquote sacred timeline or the main timeline? Here's another thing that was brought up in one of the videos that I watched. What if Loki wasn't that bad all along, but the TVA has been erasing all of his good memories and all of his good deeds all along? And because of this, forcing him to be the god of mischief all the time and not realizing that there have been all these different times where he's done good things, but then he's, kind of come back to, his old ways, kind of a deal. Is this, finally the turning point where he appears and he no longer has to show his heel side because, now he realizes that he's better than, just being the guy that gets drunk and clowns around and backstabs everyone.
Is it possible, though, that this version of Loki doesn't make it out of the show?
That's possible as well.
And Sylvie becomes the Loki we start seeing in things.
That's here's the thing.
Because I don't know, I also don't know what's up with Tom Hiddleston and his contract. Is he another one that's like, all right, I'm done. This is it. I want to go be a serious actor now.
Yeah, but I think with Hiddleston, it's a little different. He's kind of like Benedict Cumberbatch in the sense that they're still doing a lot of stuff outside of Marvel. If you really think about it, they're involved in a lot of BBC series and they're doing movies continuously. It's not like a Chris Evans or Robert Downey Jr. that while they've been doing these Disney movies, they haven't been doing anything else. And I think a lot of this also has to do with the fact, look, Tom Hiddleston played opposite Hugh Laurie in The Night Manager, which was, a lot of people loved that. It was a limited series. He was playing second fiddle to Hugh Laurie. If you really think about it, in Loki, he's really playing second fiddle to Chris Hemsworth as well. And, he's not the Chris Evans or Chris Hemsworth or Robert Downey Jr.
Right. Yeah, so, he's not the main thrust.
So he's...
That movie's called Thor, not Loki.
Right. But so to my point is that I think it's a little different in the sense that he doesn't need that. He can come in and out and do different things. And even if you see Tom Hiddleston interviews, he's like a huge fan of just a lot of different things.
That is very true. I mean, he likes the world. Like, he likes this world,
Right.
and he loves playing he loves playing over the top characters,
Yes.
and in his training, his classical training, like, he loves playing these characters. And
And
Loki is a
yeah,
complex character.
yes. And he talks about being fans of other actors and wanting to watch
Yes.
movies by other actors, things
Yes.
like that. So I think that's kind of different. I mean, I'm not saying that Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, or anyone else like that are just megalomaniacal or just narcissistic and don't want to do other things. But I think the problem there, and I mean, you could debate Chris Evans because I mean, he wasn't exactly the main character in Knives Out either.
No, he
You know,
wasn't.
we don't know. You know, people can assume, and on the internet, you can post a lot of different things as to what people think has happened.
Mhm.
But maybe he just wants to do bit roles, or maybe
Yeah.
he just wants to do something different. And maybe with a Robert Downey
Right.
Jr., that's not possible because he's such a megastar that anything less than Iron Man or Avenger numbers that was a flop. You know, the few things he's done outside, Dr. Doolittle, Due Date, things like that were all. I think the problem is that he's gone into those roles automatically thinking, oh, this is, again, this is going to be a home run. But not everything is a home run. And I think you have to really learn to kind of, measure your expectations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's hard. As big of a property as Dr. Doolittle is, Iron Man is a bigger property at this point in time.
Well, absolutely. I mean, and it's so recognizable. I mean, yeah, it's a Halloween costume. I mean,
Right.
when something becomes a Halloween costume, it's on.
Right.
It's larger than life. It just transcends, and that's why a thing like Endgame, the whole Infinity Stone saga there, the Endgame and Infinity War,
Right.
were such cultural juggernauts, because it was just like everybody in the world who was like, people were watching it. That's why it was so huge. It was like real cultural event as far as movies go. And so to be part of that and all that is definitely something I think that, when you say like Tom Hiddleston, like, what is he going to do? I don't know. And does this version of Loki go? Doesn't necessarily mean that's the last we'll see of him, because obviously we saw another Tom Hiddleston version of Loki in this episode as well. Which, oh wait, by the way, real quick, I just want to point, before I made a note of this, is how when he goes to leave the underground encampment and he opens it up and he sees Loki with everybody else, I literally was like, oh look, it's Loki with the time bandits. Like, it's what I thought of immediately. Like, it's like if Loki was traveling around with the time bandits, like that. And this whole thing felt very like Terry Gilliam-esque, like in that whole style of things, like this end of the time line world, which was really interesting, by the way, which I do want to point out too, because I find that whole land that they're brought into to like basically be erased, essentially, because it's like, even when they're pruned, they're not truly erased. They just, the matter that they are is just transported somewhere, and so the only way it can truly be destroyed is by doing this like end of time smoke monster where it just eats like
Alioth.
Alioth. It eats all that. And so I love how Sylvie figured it out, with the fact that this thing was like a guard dog for whoever it was hiding behind it, which is, the Wizard of Oz, and they even mention that man behind the curtain. I mean, it's the whole Wizard of Oz parallels now are like crazy, and she goes to Oz. Like, it's very lot of parallels there with Wizard of Oz throughout this entire thing. And even with this is like, going into like that weird world, the Oz world. And so, which leads us into this now. So who is it?
Unless they pull a Mephisto on us, unless there's a really big, huge swerve. And Christian mentioned it to me yesterday because everyone has been posting about Alioth's connection to Kang and the Avengers Tower, which has the initials that were there referred to a corporation that Kang ran in the comics. The Sphinx is what Kang used to travel through time as well.
Right.
So there's so many things that are pointing to Kang that unless they give us a really, really huge swerve, it has to be Kang. I mean, there's nothing else that they can make it out to be unless they're going to pull something like but it wouldn't make sense and not the way that Feige runs things. If this was DC, if this was something else, even if it was Star Wars, and I'm not talking about Filoni, anything involved with Filoni, I'm talking about J.J. Abrams. Could we see Doctor Doom in that castle? Sure. Could we see Magneto in that castle? Sure. But with Feige behind everything, it's got to be Kang. I mean, I just, with all the signs pointing to everything, especially there, it has to be him.
Not MODOK, is it?
Well, that was something that was rumored as well at one point, but here's the other thing I want to mention real quickly. All the Time Bandits, were all Lokis as well.
Right, because you get by their helmets all sort of like doing different versions of the horns and things like that. And I was trying to look at each one to see if there was any more like Tom Hiddleston-esque like ones hidden in there like somewhere.
Yeah.
And I was looking to see too, were there any cameos in those Lokis? Like, because I know that a lot of times you get like they just want to be in there, and I'm like, I was looking to see if there was any like actors, like well-known actors, trying to make a Loki cameo, you know, as a Loki.
Yeah, nothing has been said yet, but they have in Screen Crush. They did show that some of those Lokis have appeared in past episodes as like variants that they've showed, or that they've been in the, you know, behind Rabona or stuff like that, you know, on the screen and things like that. Another thing that they talked about is maybe it's not Kang, and it's actually something that we've discussed already. Maybe it's Mobius who's in that castle.
Well, I still feel like there is that it was dropped more than once.
Yeah.
About
the rings. Yeah.
Yep. About the rings, and then just the, you know, oh, that's the other one you got bringing you trophies, you know, the pen, and so there's and what it could be Kang. So it's you know, it's gonna be a pretty interesting reveal, for sure. But I hope it's not. See, because you know what happens last time, you know, because I feel like with WandaVision, everybody was so like, yeah, I feel like that's where it got to, because it got so built up, and not by Disney, but like
it's fans.
The fan base built it up, and I feel like that. I don't know. I feel like we could be heading towards another built-up thing that is going to be. Well, I mean, do you feel like the potential for that exists? That we've got a built-up fan hype for something that's not actually going to happen?
100%.
And Disney's fed into it by dropping these clues, feeding into it. But is it a bait and switch?
Well, the only switch that would make logical sense is what I just said. It's another Mobius, which they've dropped hints along the way, and it would be that same Agatha Harkness type effect, where, you know, no Mephisto,
it was Mobius all along.
Yeah, there you go. So no Mephisto, no Kang. There's the potential for that, but with them not having an end credit scene, it would make you think that next week's episode has to be, you know, we're saving it for next week. We're saving it for next week type of a deal. So even if it's Mobius in the castle, I think that the end has to be something so big and so good that it really has to like please people.
And this movie has to be a springboard for Spider-Man or
Yes. Or Eternals
Eternals.
or Shang-Chi.
Although, yeah, I mean, I guess any of them, right?
Even well, we'll know about Black Widow tomorrow. Well,
yeah, because there's an end credit scene in Black Widow that sets the stage for the future of the Marvel universe, which I'm like, okay, I've heard that 1,000 times before, so I'm not holding my breath on that one. I'm like, it's gonna be something like really, oh my god, and then it's not gonna come back for like 8 films. So
right, yeah, absolutely. See, getting back to your point about them switching Sylvie, I think the problem that they are switching Loki to Sylvie, I think the problem that they'll have is they still have to keep some of these actors from the past to help build going forward.
Right. I mean, like everybody can't be going. I mean,
right. That's exactly it. It's not, oh, we've had a bad season. We now all of a sudden have to, rebuild. Right. No, we've had an excellent season. We have to build upon the team. So, I mean, you're replacing Hawkeye. You're possibly replacing Black Widow. You've replaced Captain America already. Ironheart is supposed to start filming shortly. And although the rumor is that Robert Downey Jr. will be the voice in the suit, it will still be someone else as Iron Man.
Right.
So there are certain people that you're going to have to hold on to. You can't just change everyone. I mean, unless what they do and what we've speculated about with like Spider-Man, if you decide, oh, well, Tom Holland will be the MCU Spider-Man while Tobey Maguire will now be the Sony Spider-Man. So if they decide to do something like that, where, okay, Tom Hiddleston will be the Loki from now on, in his own series, while the actor that plays Sylvie will now go over to be with Jane Foster and Thor and all that.
Right,
so,
because which you actually make a really great point here, because that's like, so if we wind up having the sacred timeline completely like non-existent or disrupted, that now all of a sudden these other versions are just existing in different shows and films because now they just exist. I mean, they existed before just on a different timeline, but once you don't have a sacred timeline anymore, if that's even going to happen, it's I think you can just the possibilities are endless. You can have all kinds of people existing in different who were from different timelines, all kind of being together, but in different shows. Like they're here, then they're separate for a long time until they come back together for like something else. And I can see that happening. Unless we're going to get a thing, of course, where like we learn that the secret timeline does have to exist, and therefore they're not going to totally disrupt it because of the consequences of it happening. I don't know. Either way, we're getting a disturbance, because I mean, if we're going to go through this whole like multiverse disruption, we were set up at the end of WandaVision with her with the multiverse on the book of the book.
Yeah.
And then we've got like now what's happening here, and knowing that Spider-Man sounds like we're going to be pulling in multiverse characters, and then of course Doctor Strange, the multiverse of madness, and then the Eternals are like billions of years old, and they seem to traverse through things, and we're talking about Nexus beings and Nexus events. So it's just all just coming to a head here. So there's going to be some sort of a disruption that's going to happen. I think that's going to, stick, or it's going to cause like what's going to happen in this next phase of like all these different characters being able to come together, which then, gets us to be possibly to where we were talking about with a Fantastic Four finally showing up, and, and then the potential for X-Men, because we're just on, it's all these multiverses and variant versions and blah, 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 all coming together. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be fun. I mean, I think either regardless of what's going to happen, it's probably going to be an amazing finale. I think we're going to learn a lot about what's going on. I just am going to say, I want to prepare anybody watching or listening to this, just be prepared for it to not be Kang. I'm just telling you, I feel like they're going to save. This is just my thought. I feel like that they may save it and they're going to give us like an Owen Wilson as Mobius or a different version of Mobius, or, it's just, I don't know. Or here's one last thing.
Okay.
I'll leave you with this. It's another version of Loki.
What if it's the one that they think that Thanos killed and he says, I've been alive this whole time?
Loki Prime. So it could be that.
Loki Prime. There you go.
So let's go there as well.
Okay.
That we could be actually, since we've been getting, Lokis are everywhere and this and that. And like, and why have they been trying to kill all the other Lokis? Because eventually they knew one day this was going to happen.
Right. There can be only one.
And we constantly see Lokis are in their nature to always want to take over. Like even we saw the little skirmish of the kingdom and all that. Like they all turn on each other and they all feel the need to come up with terrible plans. And like, and the only one, and truly I think this because, they've made it very point that Sylvie is just very different. Mm-hmm. She doesn't do the same, like her plans work. It's very well thought out. She actually succeeds at her stuff. Like, and she's not looking to overthrow anything. She comes at it from a completely different perspective. So she's like the blip in the matrix kind of a thing.
Right.
And I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the Yellow Brick Road, it's another version of Loki.
Could very well be. Here's another thing.
That's all I want to say. As hyped as everybody is for Kang.
Okay, so here's two other real quick things. They've been continuing the foundation of Young Avengers because Kid Loki is part of the Young Avengers,
right?
As is Kid Kang.
Mm.
So, still we're still creating that foundation.
Right. Listen, and it very well may be Kang, which will be cool. I'm just saying, like, I know everybody's getting hyped out there. So, and I feel like if we've learned anything from WandaVision, it's that let's not all like be so quick to jump into it. I know the clues are there. I hope that to me, I feel like that would be what everybody would want. Mm-hmm. But we also know that Marvel classically does not give us what we want. And it could just be, listen, the show's called Loki, and we've established multiple times over, there are so many versions of, there's an alligator Loki. I mean,
right,
that there's so many versions of Loki that wouldn't it be hilarious or the ultimate irony? And because the reoccurring theme of Loki being a loser, Loki losing, blah, 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 that he's been the one who actually already infiltrated the TVA ages ago, took it over, and that he actually did succeed at that. Mm-hmm. This isn't the first time Loki's tried to do it. Well, whatever version, he finally did do it. And he's been hiding.
Could very well be. We will see next week.
That's my prediction. That's my prediction.
Okay. We have 15 minutes? We have 5 minutes. What do we have?
We got some time.
Okay. Bad chat?
That was the wrong one. I was trying to go for the other sound effect with I hit the wrong button.
Okay, hit the one you want.
I'm just gonna go. There we go. So anyway, so that was my prediction. So yeah, let's talk a little Bad Batch here.
Yep.
So Bad Batch episode 10, Common Ground.
Yes.
This was an interesting episode because remember, I think what we were saying, I don't know if it was the last episode or an episode, I was starting to say that does it feel like that the Bad Batch themselves are sort of taking a backseat to Omega? And I feel like that this episode was what we kind of all been a little bit waiting for, like an episode really focused on the Bad Batch, like going on a mission and like totally doing what they do, which was great to watch. But I love the lesson learned here because they were like a separatist. Like, we're not going to save a separatist, but like we We saw the beginnings of the Rebel Alliance once again, which I thought was really cool to see.
Yeah.
And the defiance and sort of like that spark of that, and them really once again pressing the issue that, you know, the Empire really, you know, is not what it all seems to be, and
Right.
that they are learning, like, because they haven't known anything else other than fighting separatists.
Right.
And now they're like, wait a second, the people we thought were bad, who we were fighting and we were told are bad, are actually really good, which makes them think like, were we always fighting on the wrong side? Which the answer is yes, because they were fighting a fake war the entire time that was fabricated by the Emperor in the first place.
Yeah.
To create a distraction so he could take power.
Right. Right. So again, the title is very apropos because they're finding common ground with the separatist senator. They're also kind of coming to common ground with Omega as well, in the sense that, you know, I think they took for granted what she brings to the team. And they were just so used to, oh, you do this. And Echo says, well, it'd be kind of difficult for her to do that. Well, why? She's not here, remember? Oh, okay. So that means we have to do this. So she's kind of crept in and almost taken, you know, Crosshair's place. Not the same skill set, but she fills another kind of piece of the puzzle to make, you know, the Bad Batch.
She seems to be a supreme strategist.
Yes. And we saw it from...
And we saw another amazing strategist in the Star Wars universe.
Right.
In Rebels. Thrawn was just an amazing tactician and strategist. And Omega we got to see that even as a young clone, she is an amazing strategist, just beating the pants, which I was like, oh, this is like a really like fun, like Queen's Gambit type of thing here, which I thought that was kind of cool to see. At least that's what I took from, like, oh, this is a little Queen's Gambit like callback here.
Right.
But I liked it. And I like that they did it too, because I think it starts to dispel, and I at least this is from my point of view, so maybe other people, but I feel like it's starting to dispel a little bit now that she's force sensitive. I think that she's just like advanced. You know, she was created in a lab.
Right.
And I think that she's been endowed with certain abilities because of that.
Like the Bad Batch.
And her thing is, at least apparently, is the strategy side of things. Being able to like think so fast. Like she's so many moves ahead.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, in the end, I could end up being wrong, but I think from the start, everyone wanted midichlorians. And I was like, I just don't see it. You know, if not, wouldn't they have broached this already? And just, to me, I brought it up last week. If she's almost an exact clone of Django wasn't a Jedi. He wasn't, and he wasn't force sensitive, I should say.
No.
Neither was Boba, because all of these things would have come out by now. We Luke would have noticed. Other people, that interacted, would have noticed. Obi-Wan would have noticed, during Clone Wars when him and Boba,
when they met really quick. Yeah.
Even Ahsoka may have, noticed. So there have been plenty of times over the years where they could have dropped that. Oh, by the way, Boba's so special because he's force sensitive. So from the start, even without knowing that there was that exact, one is alpha, one is alpha, one is omega, I always doubted it. I'm like, this is another Mephisto where people want it to be something. Yeah. But it doesn't feel like.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's fun in the beginning to theorize, like, where could it go? Was she created to be a vessel for Palpatine?
Right.
Were the cloners experimenting with trying to create a force sensitive clone and therefore build an army of force sensitive clones? And
right.
Were they could that have been in order to try to do that? So I think that the further along we go, we're starting to feel like now that that's not the case. She's obvious because, she's been genetically engineered and she's got certain abilities which seem to be coming out now, and we're starting to see them. What else is down the road? I don't know. I mean, I feel like they could really go any way they want with this. I think that what I love seeing is the growth of these guys, this group.
Yes.
As they realize not everything's so black and white, and the things that they were taught, because it was the only things they knew, which is why they were developed and made in the first place.
Right.
Was to be warriors and fight in a war, which now I think they're finding out was not what they were told.
Right.
It was when they see this, and it's making them think. And I think that's really cool. And I love the way this episode ended, because I feel like it was a little like the lesson learned here is, don't judge a book by its cover, or, don't take things for granted. Like, surprises come in small packages, like, all these different like little metaphors.
Yeah. Absolutely. And could we see, okay, so now obviously with what I just said, we've seen the Snokes, we've seen the Palpatines who were clones.
Yep.
But we really haven't seen that introduced on Kamino yet. So like you said, maybe they were building Exegol behind the scenes, and maybe the end of this episode is them taking her and throwing her in a tube, and they start to show us that they're cloning, that that Palpatine is creating, damn it, I just said is Snoke. Maybe Snoke, he's disfigured and everything because, and I'm sorry, I haven't read the book, so I'm sure that there are people out there that could say, oh no, he was deformed because of this or that. But maybe he was deformed because he wasn't completely developed. Maybe it was, he was trying to clone himself, but it never got to be the full thing. Maybe it only got a quarter of the way. So that's why he has powers, but he's still deformed. He's not completely, there yet. So, there's still a lot of different ways that this can go.
Right. And I would love to, and this is what I hope they maybe explain, because I would love to understand it a little bit more. Like, they developed a Snoke clone, and obviously the Snoke as a clone or whatever, I'm going to go with clone, had was not only just was powerful. I mean, really powerful. And that's what I hope they kind of explain, if they want to tie that up a little bit. Like, how did that happen? How was that figured out?
Right.
Where was the tech? Because obviously that was technology created, mixed in with some dark Sith science kind of a thing.
Right.
But like there was obviously a technology created by the cloners to do this. And is this too where we get into the Mandalorian, which is why they had Grogu's blood because of that. So I mean, there's that too. Is that why? Because they're creating clones with Force sense with midichlorians.
Yeah. Here's the other thing where it's just so ridiculous. Oh, another sign that that Favreau and Filoni are retconning the entire trilogy sequel because they're doing this now. They're going to erase everything that they had set up, and it's funny because they've never done that with anything. As bad as the prequels were at some points in time, Clone Wars kind of patched a lot of things together. So there are a lot of characters that need to have some backstories filled in, and who's been great at that? Filoni. Could we see how Snoke was formed, where he goes from there? Could we see a Captain Phasma, a Maz Kanata? There's plenty of characters that we already know about, but don't know enough about.
Especially when we know Maz Kanata is like pretty much 1,000 years old or whatever the heck it is. So, I mean, bound to cross paths with somebody like that in this galaxy. And does it come up? Like, is one of the characters, do we get introduced to, do we see a Maz Kanata in this series? Because how we I feel like that the character that we have now, that Rhea Perlman's playing, voicing, Sid, thank you, is sort of like the Maz Kanata type. Yeah, especially considering that she worked with Jedi and she seems to know a lot more than she's letting on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, a lot more. She's obviously working with the rebellion or the spark of the rebellion, because they immediately, well, because the whole thing was follow my directions. Sid gets called, he gets there, and then delivered to the rebellion, basically. I'm sure with Bail Organa and Mon Mothma and the other, the other senators that are kind of like starting the movement.
Right. Well, think about it. How many times has the Empire paid someone to do their bidding outside of
all the time? All the time.
But is it so much them paying someone or them forcing someone?
Well, I know Vader always paid Boba Fett every time. I mean, Vader paid those guys. I mean,
But that's what I was going to say. Outside of Vader, who have we seen? You could think about Tarkin. You could think about Krennic. You can think about, even Palpatine. They force their forces upon people as opposed to Vader. Vader was subcontracting people,
Yeah. No, sure he was. He's like, you know what? Somebody else could do this. I got other stuff to do.
I'm going to go lie in the bantha tank for a little. You take care of it.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if we were going to see any more. Yes, I don't think so. No, we didn't see any Cad Bane in this episode.
No, but we will.
I mean, that's not over by a long shot. That's not over. Will we see Cad Bane's demise in this series?
Yeah, that's something that I thought about as well, and maybe that's where we see Boba Fett appear.
Well, and that was a storyline that was never created. Oh, well, I guess there's wireframes of it, but there was supposed to be a Boba Fett Cad Bane storyline in Clone Wars.
Okay.
In which Boba Fett kills Cad Bane or something along those lines. Like there was a Cad Bane Boba Fett story. So, it was never produced because that was when they lost it, and then when they came back, they did it that way. They wrapped it up with the Ahsoka storylines and all that stuff. So it does exist. Yeah. So does this?
Yeah. So either this or Book of Boba Fett, we'll see the end of Cad Bane.
Right. Because that would be something too. If this starts and it spills over and finishes up in Book of Boba Fett.
And that could very well be. I mean, we've seen Fennec twice already, so
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know Cad Bane's a little bit more, there's like he's like more alien and all that, so it's like one of those things. Like, Boba Fett's a guy in a suit. Fennec is a human in a suit. So Cad Bane's not Cad Bane's like full on like creature alien type thing. So it may be easier for them to finish that up in animated form. Well, but then again, we brought Ahsoka to life, so
yeah. And I mean, Lord of the Rings is just celebrating the 20th anniversary. Hard to believe that's flown by.
Wow,
but
geez.
look at all the stuff that Peter Jackson did when he brought Smeagol to life.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they could potentially bring in Andy Serkis on.
Yeah.
Or not even Andy Serkis. They got the guy that plays Rocket Raccoon in Guardians, who's the guy who inherited the arrow that
oh, right.
Yeah. That Yondu left behind.
Yeah.
So that guy is experienced in doing that type of acting.
Mm-hmm.
So could we potentially see him play, Cad Bane in real life?
Maybe. I mean, I think it would be cool. I think it would be cool to see that. Mm-hmm. I mean, either or. I mean, in any form, I think it would be cool to kind of see how that rivalry has spilled in throughout the time, and even after all the rise and fall of the Empire and all that, that it's still kind of this rivalry that goes on, which does get finished off in Book of Boba Fett. So that would be really cool. It would be cool to see. Yeah, and then the Fennec stuff, and there's obviously a rivalry there.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
or it could even spill over into the Mandalorian. So
there are plenty of things that can still happen.
so much that can still happen. So
Yeah.
I still think they're doing great with the show. I mean,
Mhm.
we're at episode 11 will happen tomorrow, and I'm anxious to see where our heroes are going to go and how they're going to keep furthering the storyline. I love seeing the infancy of the how the Empire is formed. I like seeing how the rebel alliance is coming together. So it's all happening through this storyline, which I think is kind of neat. That's all sort of happening in the background of this. I mean, obviously, we'll get a resolution here to Crosshair at some point as well. That's going to reach ahead, and will it be that they are able to use that headband thing on him to get him to, snap out of it, or is he broken because they tuned his chip up so high that he's permanently damaged, and then they have. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see who makes it out of this alive. Do these guys all go into high? Yeah, there's so many questions. What happens to Omega? Like, does Boba Fett find her? Does Boba Fett know what she is, and therefore like takes her for himself and hides her away? Like,
yeah, there's
so much.
A lot of different ways. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
We've got if 11 drops tomorrow, we've got up until 16 episode 16. So we got a few weeks to go.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, awesome. we're not gonna do quick hits today, just because we decided to spend the bulk of the time on the 3 shows that we're following. We didn't want to make this a 2.5 hour episode, so we talked about these 3 shows, and we will still continue to talk about these shows until they get replaced with we'll be following Loki through to its completion, Rick and Morty through to its completion for this season. We've still got 6 more episodes, or after tomorrow, 6 more episodes, 5 more episodes, 6. Bad Batch. What do we just say?
5 after it'll be episodes 12 through 16.
Right. So we still have those to follow, plus the What If trailer drops. So that sounds like it's going to be starting up in August.
It's about a month away from that.
And at some point, Victor and I will both have gone to see Black Widow, and we'll be talking about that. So that all those things will be coming up in the very near future.
Yes.
As we continue on. We are taking next week off, right? We will not be here. Yeah, so there will not be a live show next Thursday, as Victor and I are both taking vacations. I know. How dare us? How dare we go away? How dare we take a vacation? But we are taking a vacation, which means when we come back, we'll be talking about the Loki season finale, and we'll be talking about the last couple episodes of Bad Batch and Rick and Morty. So that'll definitely be an action-packed episode. We should make sure that we see if we can have Christian join us for those episodes, for that episode back, because we're going to have a lot to talk about for sure.
Yeah, and I believe, we'll be, let's see. So this weekend will be episode 4 of Rick and Morty, and then the following, and it'll be the end of Loki and Rick and Morty in the next episode. So
right. Wow. So yeah, there's
there'll be plenty to talk about.
Plenty to talk about. So
cool.
we never have a shortage of things to talk about. That's for sure.
No, not at all.
All right. Well, we want to thank everybody so much for watching us live today. Thank you to everybody who will watch the replay of this. And of course, everybody who will be listening to the audio version of this. As we said at the top of the show, we greatly appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out with us every single week, and really appreciate it. And obviously, as we always like to say, if you'd love to hear us talk about anything else, or if you have your own comments, if you agree or disagree or have anything to add at all, you can always join us here live and chat with us, or feel free to send us an email, or even better yet, join the Galaxy Geeks Facebook group, where you can join in on all the conversations that are going on. We do talk about the shows that we're talking about here in the show, but plus all the other stuff that's going on with shows and films and books. And so it's just a whole online community, completely free of everybody just chatting. It's a completely non-toxic, safe place as well. So we're definitely not a community of people who all jump on you for saying that you like Last Jedi. That doesn't happen in this group. I should know from experience. Yeah, so definitely search us out on that. And you can always click the links. They're always in the show notes as well. So just refer to the show notes to get access to any of those links that we've talked about. We just want to remind you that we do have a Buy Me a Coffee, Galaxy of Geeks. You can also access that through the show notes. And yeah, whatever, if you want to show your support, that would be really great. Or you can head over to galaxyofgeeks.net and buy a shirt there, or support us any way you can, especially resharing these episodes, liking, commenting, giving us a review is also really helpful as well, because it does help grow the show. And of course, punching that subscribe button. Always punching the subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening to this, so that way you will be notified every time we drop an episode. So absolutely, do it. Just do it. Did I leave anything out, sir?
I think you covered everything. If not, people can go to galaxyofgeeks.net, and you've got links to everything there. That's the one-stop shopping place for social media links, places where you can go and find the links to subscribe, find all the places where you can listen to the podcast, and so on and so forth. So if you are ever lost, your North Star is galaxyofgeeks.net.
Absolutely. And Victor's put in a lot of time to update that site. So definitely head over there and check it out, because he's been doing some really cool updates over there. It looks great. So thanks for doing all those. It looks cool. So yeah, definitely you got to head over there, check it out. That is what, as Victor said, that is your North Star to all things Galaxy of Geeks. Geeks.
There you go.
All right, everybody. Thank you once again. Have an awesome rest of the week.
We'll see you next time right here on the Galaxy of Geeks live stream and podcast.